Good evening and welcome to the 2025 series of Antoshka webinars. My name is Annette and I'm the Membership and Event Manager for Antoshka and will be your host this evening. I would also like to introduce you to two of my colleagues who are co-hosting with me. Valerie Vetter, our Communications Manager. Wave, Valerie.
Hello.
And Emlyn Cullen. And Emlyn is the National Spring Clean and Green Parks Programme Manager and our guest speaker on this webinar. Our decision to hold webinars came from a membership survey that we carried out in late 23, early 24, where we discovered an appetite from our members for more engagement in the work of Antoshka. With this in mind, we will be holding bi-monthly meetings covering various topics of interest throughout the year. These will include membership engagement, heritage and properties, planning, land use, climate, biodiversity and water quality, nature and the environment. It is hoped that our members will engage more by getting involved with the grassroots of Antoshka, by participating in online and in-person events and national programmes where possible. Antoshka is primarily a membership organisation, and we're very dependent on the fees and donations we receive and are very grateful to our members and donors for that support, without which our advocacy team could not continue to fight the good fight on your behalf. Along with that, we have very successful educational programmes such as the National Spring Clean, which are funded, and we're very grateful to our funders for that support. Before I hand you over to Emlyn, I need to get some housekeeping rules out of the way and ask you to please check that your mic is muted, turn your mobile phones onto silent so there's no interference. And I just want to let you know that this webinar is being recorded and will be available online should anyone want to look back on it. Should you prefer not to be seen on the video, please turn off your cameras now, and at the end of Emlyn's presentation, we will discontinue the recording so that any questions you may have put in the chat will not be seen. In other words, out of respect for those attending the Q&A session, will not be recorded or published so that you're comfortable in asking anything you wish to ask. You'll see your chat button at the top there. So if you want to ask any questions, just put it in there as we go along. And when Emlyn is finished with his presentation, we will take a look at your questions. I'll hand you over to Emlyn now. Thank you.
Great. Thanks a million, Annette. So very nice to see you all here, and thanks for taking the time to come and listen to my presentation. So without further ado, I'll begin. So I will share the presentation. So it should be the main screen that you see. We had a little bit of teething problems. There's a video that needs to be played, and I might have to go out of the presentation and play that. So just if there is any little blips, just please bear with me. But anyway, I shall begin. So I'm going to share my presentation, and then hopefully everyone can see it all. Now it just has to load here. It takes a second. So just bear with us for a sec. Brilliant. Okay, so National Spring Clean, people power and why social movements matter. That is, well, so it's quite the title. So I'm going to look at the National Spring Clean and try and address this question of people power and why social movements matter. And then I'm also going to look at another program which I run, which is the Green Flag for Park Awards. So I'll talk about the National Spring Clean first, and then I'll move on to the Green Flag Awards. So, bit of a grandiose title there, but sure, we'll work with it. What is a social movement? Well, the Encyclopedia Britannica says that a social movement is a loosely organized but sustained campaign in support of a social goal. Typically, either the implementation or the prevention of a change in society structures or values. Now, we can go even further and look at this and this is a definition that comes from Marshall Gantz, who was a Harvard lecturer and is seen amongst one of the foremost intellectual authorities on social movement. It's a bit of a lofty explanation, but let's bear in mind what he's saying when we look at the National Spring Clean afterwards. So he says the social movements emerge from the efforts of purposeful actors, individuals, organizations, to respond to changes in conditions experienced as unjust. Well, I mean, I suppose we can think people dropping litter is unjust. So to search new public values, form new relationships, and mobilize political, economic, and cultural power to translate those values into action. So that's looking at it kind of as a very lofty view. Well, the National Spring Clean has high ambitions and always has. So the National Spring Clean began in 1999, and it's Ireland's largest anti-litter event. Happens every year during spring. Officially, it's the month of April, but we kind of start taking registrations from January on, and now it runs kind of right into the summer. So, I mean, I'm sure a lot of you who are on the presentation tonight, on the teams tonight, have dealings of run national spring cleans, but I will run through it for how it works for benefit of people who haven't. So it's very straightforward. Sorry, this is very well. Very straightforward. You register online for the National Spring Clean. Very easy. You give us your name, address, the name and address of your group, if it's a group, or if it's an individual, it can be a school. It's open to anyone, any kind of group in society. So we have lots of businesses taking part. We have community groups, a lot of tidy towns groups, of course, residents associations, schools. Any gathering of any sort is welcome into National Spring Clean, and of course individuals as well. And people just do it with their families. So you register online. And then once you've registered, we send out a pack. And within that pack we send out high-vis vests, we send out gloves, we send out bags. We also, everyone who registers is covered by Taisce's public liability insurance, which is a kind of a big bonus for a lot of groups, because it's quite expensive just, for your group to sign up its own insurance. And then off the group goes and decides where and when to do your spring clean. Generally, as I said, it's the month of April, but people do it in March. People even do it as early as February because they like to get it done before the hedgerows grow up or the growth comes back in. And it goes on into the summer. And then once you've registered and you've decided on the date of your event, you contact your local authority. Now, all the details of each local authority is available on our website, nationalspringclean.org, and it's the local authorities that will take the filled bags after each event. So the National Spring Clean works very closely works in partnership with the local authorities, and without the local authorities, it wouldn't be able to run. So, I mean, that's it in a nutshell. It's a very straightforward event, but that's kind of the beauty of it. It means that anyone can take part, and anyone who as I've kind of found before, it's very good entree for people into community action, environmental action. It's, you get a lot of people who just don't know where to start. They're concerned, they have environmental concerns, they want to do something for community, and National Spring Clean is a really easy way into that. You register, it's free, we send you the kit, the LAs take the bag off you afterwards. Each year, the Spring Clean, I should mention, the Spring Clean is funded by the Department of Environment, Climate and Climate Change and Communications. I think they're about to change their name again this year after the election, but at the moment I think they're still as is. They do tend to change on a regular basis, and often they kind of give us diktats as to what they'd like us to talk about during the year and during the event. So this year and last year they were keen for us to raise awareness about the sorry. I don't know why that happened. They were keen for us to help raise awareness about the adoption of a circular economy model, which the idea is to reduce litter and climate impact. And circular economy is kind of waste prevention approach to keeping resources in use as long as possible, and enabling us to extract the maximum value from them before kind of recovery and generation. And this is based on three principles. So that's eliminating waste and pollution, keeping materials and products in use through reuse and recycling, and protecting nature. So this means that, as we transition to a more circular economy, we'll see less waste, less litter, and lower emissions, and thus, in the bigger picture, hopefully a cleaner planet. And these principles of the circular economy have kind of been central to the ethos of the National Spring Clean over the past, I says 24 years now, I should say 25 years. Last year, and like, to kind of give an example of the how we tie in with the circular economy concept, is that 35% of the litter has been recycled. So when we send out bags to people, we send out clear bags for general waste, and we send out green bags for anything recyclable. So cans and bottles, plastic bottles particularly. Generally, paper waste isn't, if it's kind of been relatively long litter, it's not recyclable. And this then is taken by the local authorities, pre-sorted, and they're able to put it through their recycling streams. So that's how the Spring Clean has fitted into the Department of Environment's kind of pushing of the message of a circular economy, and it's been around for a long time, the reduce and reuse ethos, but it's kind of broadened into the circular economy model. So last year was a big year for the National Spring Clean. It was the 25th anniversary, a milestone year. So what we do is every year, the National Spring Clean, we have a launch at the beginning of April or the very end of March, and we try and do it with the minister who is responsible for litter, for want of a better word. So last year we had our launch in Dún Laoghaire, and there we have Ossian Smith, who's sadly no longer a minister. So we had a launch in Dún Laoghaire, and you might be able to pick out there, he has a 25th anniversary birthday cake. And then there's two kind of grumpy looking children there, which are my two children, who is happy to, it was candy for me to be able to get them in, because the photographer said the photo looks a bit boring with the three of us, so can we get some kids in? So mine were there, so it was great. He actually used that as on his election leaflet, that picture. So unfortunately, it didn't seem to work. So obviously my kids aren't that photogenic. Another arm of the National Spring Clean is we have a big social media presence. So it's kind of been able to transform the Spring Clean from being something that was once very siloed, in the sense that people they'd apply, and this even before. I remember when we didn't even have a website, so they'd send in their registration form, we'd send them out the kit, and they do the cleanup, and that's all anyone would hear about it, and they'd know they've done the cleanup, but no one else would, except for maybe their local authority. But the social media has allowed us to kind of form a much bigger community of National Spring Clean volunteers. So we get loads and loads of photos and videos and stories from people who've doing their cleanup, and we can post it on our social media channels. See there, we have 16,500 followers. We have total reach of 731,000, and that's on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube. And it's given it a whole dimension of ability for different groups to connect with each other, which they never had before. So we can share best practices. People can show you what they've done, and other groups can like them and say well done to you. And it's nice for people to feel as if they're not doing their work in a vacuum, which you kind of had up until that point. So I think at this point I'll kind of revert back to the idea of a social movement to people power. So what I have here is what the campaign achieves. So obviously the main aspect of the Spring Clean is that it's an anti-litter initiative, and we encourage cleanups throughout spring and summer. This is from this year's report, and we promote personal responsibility for litter. Beyond that, though, we heighten awareness of litter and waste issues, and I put these with an asterisk beside them, because these are more kind of about the community building aspect of it. It highlights the importance of recycling or reuse in the wider environment context, and the big point is that it fosters community spirit through local environmental actions. And I've always said, and it's always been a part of the spring clean that it's not just an anti-litter initiative; it's a community program. It's about people going out and do something positive for their own area and working together with people in their community. Now, it might be a business doing something positive for their local area. It might be a local brownies group. So it might be groups that, they're doing their own thing. But if you are out in your community and you see a group of people doing a cleanup in your area, that builds social capital. That it sends out a message that we care about where we live in, and that's always been the kind of one of the main selling points. Not selling points, I think that's the wrong word. One of the main um, added value aspects of the National Spring Clean. So, I mean, this comes from the quote that the current minister, who is responsible for the National Spring Clean, so Alan Dillon, who's Minister for State at the Department of Environment, Climate and Communications. I think that's what it's called now. I'm not sure if that's the new name. No, that's the old name. Anyway, so he says every year, the local volunteers who participate continue to demonstrate the fantastic community spirit and desire to make a positive contribution to the local environment. And this is what the National Spring Clean is. It's about local volunteers working together to do something positive for the community. It might be picking litter, it might be something else. And I go back to this idea of seeing people doing something. So I'm sure you've heard of the broken window theory, which states that, the broken windows theory is kind of more crime thing. It states that visible signs of crime, antisocial behavior, create an urban environment that encourages further crime disorder. And this came from the States, but litter is part of that aspect. If you live in an area that's very littered, it creates a mindset of people don't care about this. I don't mind dropping litter because no one's picking up litter, so it's the done thing. If you live in a clean environment where you see people out doing litter picks, you're very much less likely to drop litter yourself, because the subliminal message is put across that this isn't acceptable in our area. So, I mean, it's all very good and well for me to say these are the outcomes of National Spring Clean. It builds community. It builds social capital. It's a community thing. But I think it's kind of important to get to get it from the horse's mouth, as we'd say. Last year, for the National Spring Clean's 25th anniversary, we asked groups to send in videos about what groups that are taking part in the Spring Clean for a good while, and about what it meant to them and what they got from it.
While we are promoting the National Spring Clean and what that means and the benefits of it, that we also need to look at other areas where our members can engage. For example, with in-person events or talks, or indeed getting together locally at grassroots level and maybe have a social gathering, a hub of some description. I know traditionally we would have had local associations around the country, which are fantastic, but it's not something that everybody is interested in getting involved in on a local committee as a chairperson or secretary or PRO or whatever. And I really think that there should be a new model whereby people will get together socially over a cup of coffee or even online and create something locally, maybe a nature walk, or there could be some planning issues that they need to bring forward. But basically, if anyone out there has any will to do something like that, we'd be thrilled to hear from them. So thank you. I'm just going to hand you back to Emlyn. I'm sure he's sorted.
Yeah, thanks, Nat. Yeah, so as I said, it's all very well for me to say, National Spring Clean has all these outcomes, builds community, etc. So rather than take it from me, I'd like to just play a little video of one of the many groups that sent in videos about what the Spring Clean means to them. So I hope you can hear it.
I'm Liam Keane from Bettystown Tidy Towns. We are based in Bettystown, County Meath, on Meath's beautiful Gold Coast.
Our first national Spring Clean was in 2017, and over the years we've had anything between 20 and 50 volunteers helping out on the day.
In 2021, we had a massive response to our call to take part in the spring clean. The beach was filled with people and we were amazed at how much rubbish was collected. Literally piles of it.
We plan one major spring clean for the National Spring Clean in April, where our volunteers are out every week spring cleaning our beach and village streets.
The National Spring Clean gives us a focus, an opportunity to bring the community together and a chance to be part of a national effort to make our surroundings cleaner.
Okay, so I will then go back to my presentation. I hope you're able to see it. Hang on a second now. And hopefully it starts in the same place. Sorry, this is a bit not very smooth because I couldn't play it in. But I think what we can take from that video is we can see exactly the idea about what the National Spring Clean is. Sorry, I'll have to go through these again quickly. So, sorry. So, I think the video, as they demonstrate, we can see there's all walks of life. There's all members of the community there. There's school children. There's people from other countries. There's a nice blend of community, all, as they said themselves, doing something together that benefits the community and is part of a bigger project as a whole, something as a national project. So these are the headline figures. Since 1999, over 50,000 tons of litter. That's wrong. That should be 500,000 tons of litter. I just realised as I read it there. And over 18.5 million participants. So they're the headline figures. But the other benefits, as we've talked about, are intangible. Volunteering for the National Spring Clean gives people a sense of purpose. It allows people to meet new friends. It can increase social skills. It can improve self-esteem. All these things that you get from volunteering. And above all, it provides a sense of security. And this, I suppose, is why that I feel that the National Spring Clean is a social movement. So we'll go back to the idea of a social movement, a loosely organized, sustained campaign in support of a social goal. So the goal of the National Spring Clean is to reduce litter in your neighborhood by picking it up. But typically in either in the implementation or the prevention of change in society's structure values. So the idea is to pick up litter, but the goal is to change our societal perception of litter. It's not acceptable. We don't want it in our neighborhoods. And beyond that, we get all the added extra value of the social benefits that come from volunteering the National Spring Clean. National Spring Clean. That's the National Spring Clean. I realise, because for the sake of the presentation, I've gone through quite quickly how it works, etc. But there's time for questions afterwards if anyone wants to know more. So now I'll just talk briefly about the Green Flag Awards. So Green Flag Awards is a program that's been run by Taisce since 2016, and it's given to, well, not just parks, gardens, and any recreational sites that are free and available to the public, and it recognises parks and green spaces that are well managed. So they don't have to be the most beautiful park. They don't have to be the biggest park. They don't have to have the best views. But it's more about how they're managed and what's done within the parks. So the way it works is that sites apply to become a Green Flag Park, and they are assessed on these 8 criteria. So when they apply, they have to produce a management plan for the site, and the management plan, it needs to address these 8 criteria. And then once, sorry, I'm not explaining this very well. Once they apply for a flag, if the application is up to scratch, they go through to judging, and then they will be judged on these 8 criteria. So the first one is a welcoming place. So I mean, that's kind of when you arrive, do you feel welcome? Is there good orientation? Is there good signage? Is there toilets available? Is it accessible? So for people with accessibility difference, is it good to bring kids? All these places, all these things that are part of the idea of yes, I feel welcome when I arrive here. Then there's the second part, which is health, safe, and secure. So, is health and safety is the park well maintained? Is it safe? Are the paths safe? Do you feel safe? Is it somewhere where you go in and you're worried about uh, yeah, groups of youths hanging out in underneath trees? Do you feel safe? Is it secure? Is there life buoys if there's a river going through it? All these things that are part of that are looked at when the flag is when the site is judged. Is it well maintained and clean? That's kind of obvious criteria. How is it managed environmentally? So we want them to not use peat. We want them to not use chemicals, pesticides. Want to use their own compost to recompost. All the little things that can be done to effectively manage the flag well within good environmental practice. Then there's biodiversity, landscape, and heritage. So what are they doing for biodiversity? Are they planting for pollinators? Are they planting? Are they planning ahead for potential climate change? Are they planting plants that might need less water? Or if they're in areas liable to flood, are they planting trees that can help secure ground soil? All these things have to be looked at by the management of the park. Number 6 is community involvement. Again, quite self-explanatory. How is the local community involved? How is it catered for? Marketing and communication, which is, do they have a Facebook page? Do they? What's their outreach like? Do you know what's going on in your local park? How do you know? And then the last one is ages management, and that's kind of more about the kind of general management of the nitty gritty of the administration of the park. So these are all the things that if you want a green flag park, you are going to be marked on these criteria, and you have to get a certain mark to pass. So last year there was 120 of these green spaces that were awarded the Green Flag for Parks award by An Taisce. So it's from it's our best known public parks, like for example Stephen's Green in the picture, the War Memorials Garden, Phoenix Park. Most of the big OPW parks, most local authorities have their kind of main marquee parks in the program. And then we also have a community section, which I will talk about in a minute. So it's open to big and small. And as I said, you don't have to be Stephen's Green to take part. You can be a small park with very little amenities. It's just as long as it's managed correctly. And then allied to the main award, then we have a couple of sub-awards. So we have a heritage award. So this would be given to it's supported by the National Parks and Wildlife Service, and it's given to parks that would have a specific heritage. Now, it could be a arboriculture heritage, like Fota Wildlife Park is here. It could be built heritage. We have, like, for example, Tuam Palace Grounds in Galway have capability brown designed landscaping. It could be somewhere like the War Memorial Gardens, a good example, which has lovely built heritage in it. So this is an extra award which parks can decide to enter into it or not. So we had 12 sites awarded in 2025. It's only been going for a couple of years now, so we're just getting this off the ground, really. And then there's the community award. So I'll come back to this in a minute, but this is a kind of a lower level award than the Green Flag award, in the sense that it's not as rigorous, but it's open to groups, community sites that are run by community, by volunteers in the community. So it's not run by professional, parks management teams, and thus the criteria isn't quite as rigorous. And this being funded by the DRCD since 2001, and last year we had 25 sites awarded. So I'll come back to the community award in a second and talk about how it fits into our idea of people power and social movements. There's also another sub award, which is the Pollinator Plan Award, and this is judged by the National Biodiversity Data Centre and Park Centre by entering what their pollinator plan is. So what do they plant to encourage pollinators visiting the park or the site. Last year, the overall winner is Tralee Bay Wetlands Eco and Activity Park, which is well worth to visit if you haven't been to it. And then there's subsections. So with the best country park or domain, which winner was Ballycroy. Then we had a community garden winner, which was Sneem. They only joined by one last year. The beautiful garden senses. And then there's a town park, which was Tralee. That is not. It says Tralee Bay Wetlands. That should not be Tralee Bay Wetlands. So the town park winner, I think, was the. I'm trying to think of the name, but it's the park that's in Tralee Town, which is a lovely park as well. And it has a little Rose of Tralee section. So that's the Pollinator Award. And then this is the annual timetable of how it works. So in February we do the call for applications, and that's where we are now at the moment. So up until March, people are sending their applications. During March, we have judges training, so we have to keep getting judges every year because as the program builds, we're finding harder and harder to get judges to visit them. So if you have any background in the parks game and you're interested in being a judge, let me know. Then in April we have the applications end, and then from April to August the judging season commences. So judges go out and visit the parks now. Generally, there's 2 judges. They go out and they visit with the park manager. They're walked around the site. They'll go through the management plan, and then they'll put their heads together afterwards and mark the park on the 8 different criteria, and there's subsectors of each 8 criteria. And then September or October, we get a finalization results and announcement of the awards. We used to have an award ceremony pre-COVID, and then we didn't have it during COVID. And now since COVID, we haven't been able to get it back off the ground, but we are definitely planning on having it next year. And then that's the end of the season with the awards and a press release that goes along with it. So going back to community gardens, I'm going to look here at the example of Headford Community Garden. And this is a really stunning public space that's run by volunteers. It's open to everyone. They say no experience in gardening is needed. It's very accessible. Dogs are welcome. They say, as long as you pick up after them. There's a small play area for younger kids, and the garden is completely closed and safe. So it's really a nice, safe, highly accessible and highly welcoming haven for the community. And they host events throughout the year, as well as the gardening. They have things like they have an egg hunt, they have a midsummer picnic, they have kind of various pollinator projects. They have a pumpkin festival, a flax festival, and they also allow other community groups to use the site. So it really is, a very inclusive area. And this is kind of feeding into our idea of people power. So this is volunteers doing this, and they're providing something really, really beneficial for the whole community. And I think the kicker of the whole thing is that the polytunnels they have, they use those polytunnels to produce the Meals on Wheels, or the produce that are used in the local Meals on Wheels service. So if that's not people power and community building, I really don't know what is. That's as good as best practice as you can ask for. And on that note, I think I will wrap it up. As I said, I know I've kind of gone briefly through the 2 programs. I've attempted to highlight how both my programs that I work with are fit into this idea of people power building and the importance of social movements. I've tried to lay out the evidence. I'll leave it up to you to make up your own minds. But the long and short of it is that, as I said, the National Spring Clean it's much more than an anti-litter initiative. It's a community initiative. And the Green Flag for Awards, I know, is an award thing, but there is an aspect of it again that really does promote community involvement. So
Thank
thank you
you,
very much.
Emlyn.
Yeah, and
Thank
there's
you
our
so
two
much.
websites.
A
My
lot
pleasure.
of food for thought there in both presentations, I think.